Thanks, Sophie. Hello, I'm Jennifer Jones with the headlines in Wales. The reaction here to the UK government's U-turn on welfare cuts. Chloe Morgan, who receives the personal independence payment, thought she could lose her benefits forever.
I think the fact that it's taken this long for them to roll back the changes shows that if we don't fight for ourselves, no one else is going to.
Welsh Labour is setting out its stall at an annual conference in Llandudno, but everyone here is talking about another Westminster U-turn.
Also in tonight's programme.
It was a metre above there, the level of the water when it came over. So by the time he got over to here, it was up to here.
Paul Thomas says he had to swim for his life during Storm Dennis. Now local residents in Ynys y Bull feel abandoned after being told they won't get flood defences. Wales's rising tennis star Mimi Zhu will face British #1 Emma Raducanu at Wimbledon, and she tells us about her ambitions for her Grand Slam debut.
I really hope that I'm making them proud, making Wales proud. I was in Swansea for 13 years, so yeah, obviously it's really nice to be doing it for them as well.
And from the pubs of Merthyr Tydfil to Britain's biggest music festival, we meet singer-songwriter Nancy Williams as she performs at Glastonbury. Good evening, noswaith dda chi. The Prime Minister has said his welfare reforms strike the right balance. That's after making concessions to his own backbench MPs. Wales has some of the highest benefit claimant rates in the UK, and some Welsh Labour MPs were among those opposed to the UK government's initial plan to bring down the welfare bill. But in a U-turn last night, the government said its changes won't now affect existing claimants. With all the latest, here's our political correspondent, Daniel Davis.
Chloe from Swansea is one of the 200,000 people in Wales who rely on personal independence payments, or PIP. The UK government wanted to make it harder for some disabled people to claim them, but a rebellion by Labour MPs has forced ministers to water down some of their plans.
I think it's about time. Honestly, I don't know why they thought this was ever going to come off or work. You know, targeting the most vulnerable people in society. They describe people being trapped by benefits, and that just shows they don't understand disabled people at all. You know, we're not trapped by benefits. It's called the independence payment for a reason. You know, they give us some semblance of normality and freedom.
PIP is for working-age people who need help covering the additional costs of their disability. Late last night, in a massive U-turn, the UK government said the stricter criteria to qualify for PIP will only apply to new claimants.
It's very important that we reform the welfare system because it doesn't work and it traps people. And therefore, we're going to press ahead with the reforms, and the principles are if you can work, you should work. If you need help getting into work, you should have that help and support. But if you can't work, there's no prospect of working, then you must be protected. We need to get it right. That's why we've been talking to colleagues and having a constructive discussion. We've now arrived at a package that delivers on the principles with some adjustments, and that's the right reform. And I'm really pleased now that we're able to take this forward.
This is all happening as the Welsh Labour Party faithful hold their annual conference in Llandudno this weekend. Those rebel Labour MPs, among them 5 from Wales, now have a decision to make. Some of them say they'll look at the detail and consider the changes. Others don't sound like they're budging.
I came to the Labour movement from the trade union movement, and in the trade union movement, we've always opposed new terms and conditions for new starters. So I do still have concerns that someone post November 2026 would be treated differently to someone under the current system.
Relieved. because it shows that the government's listening, and that's really, really important because we want to go forward together. You know, the bill in principle, I never had any problems with the principles. It was the process that was the issue, and the 4 concessions that have been made so far have been really, really good in terms of going forward with the process. So I will be reading it very, very carefully on Monday, the government amendment, but I'm really pleased that they finally have been listening.
The Welsh Government objected to these cuts, saying there was overwhelming opposition among disabled people.
Well, I'm really pleased that the Prime Minister has listened to the concerns of the public. We've been consistent in our concerns to the UK government because we know there was a disproportionate effect on the people in Wales. Some of our really vulnerable communities, most vulnerable people, were really, really concerned. And now the Prime Minister has listened, he's changed his mind, that's a good thing. This is called accountability.
Just a year in power, and already the UK Labour government has had to navigate choppy waters.
Well, let's talk to Dan now. He's on the promenade in Llandudno for us. And Dan, has this overshadowed the start of the Welsh Labour conference?
I think there is a real risk of that, Jen. And remember, this isn't the first U-turn we've seen from Keir Starmer's government recently. There was the U-turn over the inquiry into grooming gangs. There was the U-turn on the winter fuel payment. And now this one on reform of the welfare system. This conference is taking place a year after Labour swept to power in that landslide general election. But even with a huge majority in the Commons, Keir Starmer has found out very quickly how difficult it is to be in government. His colleagues in Wales, of course, have had plenty of experience of that, having run the Welsh government for 25 years, winning all the Assembly and then Senedd elections. But at this conference, I think we will pick up a sense that the next Senedd election next year is approaching a party with its back to the wall. There's an awful lot of talk about the threat, as Labour sees it, posed by Reform UK or Plaid Cymru. The reason for that is the opinion polls. The opinion polls show Reform amassing support in some traditional Labour heartlands. The polls show that Labour is losing a lot of support to Plaid Cymru. It falls to Eluned Morgan to try and do something about that. One of her strategies is to make no secret of the disagreements she has with Keir Starmer. She called for a U-turn on the winter fuel payment. She called for it on the reform of the welfare system. On that, at least, Keir Starmer will hope to come to this conference with those divisions in the party put to bed. We'll find out for certain when the vote takes place in the Commons next week.
OK, Dan, thank you very much. That's Daniel Davis there in Llandudno. 2 teenagers who used Snapchat to plan how they were going to stab a 12-year-old girl on Barry Island have been sentenced to youth detention. The girl says the attack has left her with physical and mental scars, and she's now scared to go out alone. David Grundy was in court, and he joins us now from the newsroom. David, I mean, this is every parent's worst nightmare.
It is, Jen. You know, what are your kids doing online? Who are they talking to, and how do you keep tabs on it? Well, that was all brought sharply into focus today at Cardiff Crown Court. Now, just to warn you, some of the details of what happened, well, you might find them upsetting. Now, the boys, who were 13 and 15 at the time, can't be named because of their ages. The youngest used the social media app Snapchat to persuade the girl, who they both knew, to meet up with them and go to Barry Island last November. But the boys were also messaging each other on Snapchat, talking about tings, which is slang for knives, and about chinging, which means stabbing. They all spent the next day at Barry Island at the amusements, and when she wanted to leave, they took her to the Harbour Road car park, where one boy put her in a headlock until she passed out. She was then stabbed repeatedly and kicked in the face. When she got away, she didn't realise just how serious her injuries were. She asked paramedics who were taking her to hospital whether she was going to die. Now, today, Judge Tracy Lloyd-Clark imposed reporting restrictions on naming the victim, restrictions that she emphasised also apply to social media users as well.
David, this must have had a terrible impact on this young victim.
Yeah, it really did. Now, in a victim personal statement that was read in court, she said she thinks about the incident on a daily basis. She's also been diagnosed with PTSD. Now, the judge said both boys had tried to blame each other for carrying out the stabbing before they both decided to plead guilty. Judge Lloyd Clark told them today, neither of you is telling the whole truth, adding you both acted together, you were both to blame. Now, the 13-year-old was sentenced to almost 2.5 years youth detention. The 16-year-old was given almost 4 years. Both boys were also given indefinite restraining orders, banning them from contacting their victim as she tries to rebuild her life, Jen.
David, thank you very much. David Grundy there. A man from Cardiff has been given a life sentence for stabbing a 43-year-old man to death with a machete at a children's park. James Brogan from St Mellons was found with serious injuries at Colford Drive in November last year. He died in hospital shortly after. 21-year-old Georgie Tanetta from Trowbridge was found guilty of murder at Newport Crown Court last month. He'll serve a minimum of 22 years in jail. A sixth person has been charged with murder after a 40-year-old woman was shot dead in Talbot Green. Joanne Penny was fatally injured at a flat in March. 21-year-old Christina Genova from Leicestershire was originally charged with assisting an offender, but has now been charged with murder. Genova will stand trial in October, along with 7 other defendants in connection with her death. Now, people living in the village in Rhondda-Cynon-Taf that flooded during Storm Dennis say they feel angry and abandoned after being told that flood defences won't be improved in the area. Natural Resources Wales says it's not economically viable to raise the height of the flood wall in Ynys y Bull or to buy the most at-risk homes, as Jordan Davis reports.
Yeah. Number 7.
This was the scene in Ynys y Bull 5 years ago. Cars were floating down the street and 16 homes were submerged. Storm Dennis brought torrential rain, which swelled the nearby river.
That wall over there, it was a metre above there, the level of the water when it came over. So by the time he got over to here, it was up to by here.
Paul Thomas was caught up in the flood and said he had to swim for his life.
The water come up the street in a wave and one come down the street and it knocked me off the step. So I eventually climbed up a downpipe and got my head above the water, and then the water started to recede slightly and went to the wall, and I kicked off the wall. Had I not kicked off the wall, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd have gone over the wall into the river and that would have been the end of it.
Residents say they were promised they would be protected, but now proposed flood defences won't be built. Natural Resources Wales looked at several options to try and prevent flooding here. One was to buy the most at-risk houses on this street. Another was to make the wall between the river and the street taller, up to 4.5 metres in some places. Both options were dismissed. It was found the cost of the proposals far outweighed the estimated economic benefits. It's left residents angry and worried about how they'll protect their homes and families in the future.
We've got to give it up at some point, because to live here, the danger that we are facing is just too great. It's just silly for us to be here. If the river come over again, or when the river comes over again, which is highly likely, it did come over twice this year. But if it comes to another Storm Dennis event, we've got about 5 minutes to get upstairs out of the way. And in that 5 minutes, we grab whatever we can and we're up there.
And other residents, like Alison and Graham, are frustrated.
They just don't want to do anything for us. We are living in fear and they just don't want to do anything for us. At the moment, with the weather, it's fine. But as soon as the winter comes now, we'll be panicking. So, no, I'm not happy about it.
People in this street won't get insurance because the cost of it is so much that I find it very difficult to afford the insurance on the house.
Rhondda-Cynon-Taf Council says nothing is off the table, including buying the homes. Natural Resources Wales says it will not walk away from the community and will explore what else can be done.
Jordan Davis there. You're watching Wales Today. Still to come before 7.
We're on the promenade here in Aberystwyth for the second day of the National Road Cycling Championships. Tonight the riders will be racing along the prom and through the town centre.
And warming up this weekend, much of Wales unlikely to reach the heatwave threshold, but we could see one further south and east. More on that in a few minutes.
Now get your strawberries and cream at the ready. Wimbledon starts on Monday with a box office matchup involving a Welsh teenage sensation. 17-year-old Mimi Zhu from Swansea, whose recent form has earned her a wild card, will take on fellow Brit and former US Open champion Emma Raducanu. Kerry Coleman-Phillips reports.
It's one of the most iconic events on the sporting calendar, and this year a rare opportunity to cheer on a Welsh player at Wimbledon.
It honestly means the world to me. Like, I've been playing junior since I was 13. My first Wimbledon qualifying for women's was when I was 14, so to be 17 now and to get to play my first main draw Wimbledon, it means absolutely everything to me.
Mimi Zhu has earned herself a wildcard for the singles after a breakthrough season on the ladies' circuit, notching up impressive wins at the Birmingham, Ilkley and Nottingham Opens, including taking out a top seed. And what a start she has in store at SW19. She's been drawn against none other than the former US Open champion and British #1 Emma Raducanu.
I'm really confident in myself. I'm just ready to go out and embrace it and enjoy every single moment. I think I've got nothing to lose in a matchup like that, so I think I can really go out there, play freely, get my game out there on the court, and show everyone what I can do.
Born and raised in Swansea, Mimi started playing when she was no bigger than the racket in her hand, turning heads at just 3 years old. Her former coach at Swansea Tennis and Squash Club said he knew there was something special about her.
What's probably struck me the most with Mimi was her ability to learn. I've never seen anything like it since. Her ability to learn a technique, a new footwork pattern, a new pattern of play, she could always learn in a drop of a hat.
I really hope that I'm making them proud, making Wales proud. I was in Swansea for 13 years, so obviously it's really nice to be doing it for them as well.
The all-British tie is certainly gaining plenty of attention when the tournament gets underway on Monday. The 2021 US Open champion and current British #1 Emma Raducanu will be the heavy favourite. But it is a chance for the Swansea teenager Mimi Zhu to make a name for herself on the biggest stage of all. Kerry Coleman-Phillips, BBC Wales Today at Swansea Tennis and Squash Club.
Staying with sport, it's the second day of the National Road Cycling Championships, which are being held this year in Ceredigion. The first event yesterday, the time trial, took place in and around Aberaeron. And there was success for Wales, with Zoe Baxter from Pontyclun winning the women's elite race. Well, this evening, the circuit race is being held in Aberystwyth, and Craig Duggan is there for us.
Yeah, Jen, thanks. The elite women's race started about half an hour ago. There are 52 riders competing for the title of National Circuit Race Champion for 2025. Welsh interest tonight includes Megan Barker, but as you mentioned, Zoe Baxter there, she's not competing in this race. She won the time trial at Aberaeron yesterday. They're doing a 1.6 kilometre lap along the promenade and through the narrow, sharp cornered streets of the centre of town. And before the elite riders had a chance to get their race underway, a group of local school children had the chance to ride the same route. It's very popular, cycling very popular here in Ceredigion, and I asked some of the youngsters what they love so much about being on a bike.
I like cycling really far and it keeps me fit. I'm happy because we can just watch it right here. I like cycling because it keeps me fit and just settle into it, so it's really fun.
You can see the Tour de France jerseys riding past every few minutes, so you realise what a big event this is for Ceredigion. We've improved the roads, the surfaces, we filled the potholes in on the course because we want people to have a good experience. We want them to know how good the surface is and how good the area is for cycling, and to come back in the future time and time again. We want it to be a cycling tourist destination.
The elite riders have just passed us now, just where we were on that bit of VT, and they're going so quickly on these wet streets. We had a bit of rain a few minutes, hours before the race started. Later on at 8 o'clock, the open elite race for the elite men will get underway at 8 o'clock, and then the weekend continues into Sunday when the road race across North Ceredigion takes part, starting and finishing here in Aberystwyth, bringing a close to what's been a great weekend of elite cycling here in Ceredigion.
Craig, thank you very much. Well, rugby now, and former Wales and British and Irish Lions player George North says it's important that the Lions put down a marker against Western force tomorrow morning. Wales's Thomas Williams starts at scrum half on what will be their first game of the Tour of Australia. That's after they lost to Argentina in a warm-up match in Dublin last week. George North, who was the Lions' top try scorer on the last Tour of Australia, says the players need to start well tomorrow.
When you're actually on Australian soil, obviously the pressure's on. Everyone's watching, all eyes on you, and you want to start the tour. You want to start the tour well. And I think obviously Saturday, first game, they would have a week to get themselves acclimatised. The boys that it's a full squad now. Obviously the boys from all the finals are back in. And it's a great chance now to build some momentum through these early games, ready for the Test series.
Now, from playing in the local pubs in Merthyr Tydfil to performing at the UK's biggest music festival, 19-year-old Nancy Williams has achieved a lifelong dream when she performed earlier at Glastonbury, showcasing her music on the very stage where Ed Sheeran played at the beginning of his career. Our reporter Ellery Griffiths went to chat with Nancy before she set off for Worthy Farm.
At Club Crown in Merthyr, Nancy's performing a set, her last before heading to Glastonbury.
Singing on stage, I think performing is like my favourite part of doing this. I love seeing different crowds and how people interact.
She says her love of music began 10 years ago.
Well, I've always kind of sang in the shower and whatever, but I think writing songs made me realise that I do want to do that. And then I think I was 14, 15 when I was thinking to myself I could do this as a career.
Through social media, Nancy caught the attention of Merthyr-born filmmaker Johnny Owen, who helped her get studio time, and her debut track took off. She had thousands of plays in the first 2 weeks and now has 4 songs released, all getting her noticed for Glastonbury.
I was in a pub and I got the text that I was playing in Glastonbury. I was like, nah guys, I'm playing in Glastonbury. So it was really nice to kind of celebrate with everyone as well.
She told me it still doesn't feel real, but it is. Nancy's had the chance to sing at the most famous music festival in the world. And here she is. Her dad sent us this video of her on stage, the same one that Ed Sheeran made his festival debut on back in 2011.
It's you kind of look at him now and you're like, oh, I could be that, I could be there. And I think that's what's motivating me to keep going as well.
BBC radio presenter Hugh Stevens says opportunities like this can really boost young artists' careers.
Not everybody gets to play at Glastonbury, so getting on the lineup for Glastonbury is a huge deal. It doesn't matter the stage, be it the Pyramid or one of the smaller stages.
I hope people can kind of see my journey and how I started and see that it is possible to be that and to do whatever you want to do. It's not just a dream, and you can make it real if you put in the effort and work hard.
From the pubs in Merthyr to a spotlight at Glastonbury, Nancy's career is off to a good start, and her dream of becoming the next big thing might just be within reach.
Well, I wonder what the weather has in store for Glastonbury and for the rest of us over the weekend. Sue is here.
Jen, thanks very much. Well, things are warming up for Glastonbury and for the rest of Wales as we head through the weekend and into next week. Talk of heat waves for the Midlands and for the south and east of England. Most of Wales will see temperatures up to 5 degrees above our daytime June average of 18 Celsius. But some will see temperatures more than 8 degrees above average. Now, if we reach or exceed 26 Celsius for 3 days in a row across South and East Wales, then technically that reaches the heatwave threshold, and heatwaves in June becoming more likely with climate change, so one to watch. It will be warmer and more humid everywhere, but the pressure chart shows this lingering system. That's the weather maker over the weekend. Cloud and patchy rain closer to it in the north and west, but high pressure bringing more settled weather further south and east. So this evening then, thicker cloud for most, a little patchy rain and drizzle pushing in from the west, and a close humid night. Overnight lows of 16 to 18 Celsius. Now these are nearer than average daytime temperatures for June. So it will be a muggy, humid start tomorrow. Low cloud to start with, drizzle further north and west, but spells of sunshine breaking through more widely, especially for border counties. Brisk southwesterly winds tomorrow, introducing that warmer air. Highs between 19 Celsius in Gwynedd and 25 in Newport. But over the next couple of days, that front will start to fizzle out and drift northwards, allowing high pressure to build from the southeast through Sunday and into Monday. So for Sunday, still some thicker cloud further north and west with that Atlantic influence, brighter in the east with the sun burning through the cloud more readily, so warming up into the 20s everywhere. Hottest where it's sunniest for longest, mid to high 20s along the marches with lighter winds and sea breezes. The peak of the heat then will probably come on Monday, possibly over 30 Celsius in Monmouth, Cardiff and Welshpool on Monday. In fact, it could be our warmest day of the year so far. The current record of 30.8 Celsius was set in Whitechurch in Pembrokeshire last Friday. Could challenge that on Monday, and with humidity levels rising, it'll feel warmer everywhere into the start of next week, but just briefly heating up because temperatures are likely to dip back nearer normal through the middle and later on next week. Jen.
Sue, thank you very much. Right, let's get a reminder of our top stories before we go. The Prime Minister has said his welfare reforms strike the right balance after a U-turn, meaning changes won't affect existing claimants. Some Welsh Labour MPs were among those opposed to the UK government's initial plan to bring down the welfare bill. And some residents in Ynys Bull in Rhondda-Cynon-Taf, whose homes were flooded in Storm Dennis, say they feel abandoned after being told they won't get flood defences. Natural Resources Wales says it's not economically viable to raise the flood wall, but says it will work with the community. And that is Wales Today. Thanks for your company. We'll be back with the headlines at 10:30 tonight. But until then, from all of us on the programme, do have a very good Friday evening. Bye-bye.